everybody. Welcome to the With Love series with Ariel and Kaerhart.
Yo, yo!
We are so excited. Okay, so normally we have a guest on the show, but today's guest is actually our host.
Whoa,
Kaerhart.
that's me.
You. This lady is a powerhouse, okay? So amongst many things, she's a singer-songwriter. She also is an author. She has a book coming out called Your Cosmic Code, Essentials to Numerology. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And she also is a phenomenal numerologist and has an oracle card deck coming out as well. So we get to interview her today and ask all the questions.
I'm a little stressed out when I think about all the work I have. When you name that all off, I'm like, yeah, that's happening like this month. Yeah.
It's a good month for you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk numbers.
Okay. Yes.
Before we even ask what numerology is, how did you get started?
Oh, man. Well, I was someone who astrology never resonated with me. A lot of spiritual tools never did. And I find that a lot of people find spirituality through astrology. And, you know, all the things that I had studied, that I'd looked at, that helped us reflect and understand ourselves deeper, never really felt like it helped me understand who I was. It never really explained who I was in a way that made sense to me and resonated. And one night, many, many years ago, I had a dream in which someone came to me and said, you have to find the numbers, you have to find the numbers, follow the numbers. And it said numerology. And I remember I woke up, it was like 3 a.m., of course. And I was thinking, what the hell is numerology? I've never heard of this. And I kept having this nagging, like, go look this up, go look this up. And I was so exhausted. I was like, oh God, I don't want to get out of bed. But you know, when you have that nagging feeling, where like you have to write something down, like you get this like big insight in the middle of the night. So I got up and I went and I was doing all this research online, and on like page 10 of Google, I found this woman who was in LA who focused on numerology, and she was the only one I could find. So I emailed her and I was like, hi, I'd like to have a numerology reading. And her first response to me was, how did you find me? I don't really do this anymore. And I was like, what do you mean? I just Googled you. It was like a really weird response, but she agreed to read for me. And I feel like everything changed in that reading. And I know you've had so many readings, so you understand when you feel like someone's reading you like a book. I was like, oh my God, this is the reason my life has been the way that it is. This is why, like, all the struggles that I've had, the challenges, like, everything was confirmed that I knew deep down about myself, but wasn't ready to embody. And I just became obsessed with numbers. And as a musician, like, patterns make me feel safe, and they just really resonate with me and help me organize things in my mind. So it was kind of this natural progression. And I started studying with her, and that's been like a huge focus of mine for the past few years. I think it's a long-winded way to say how I found it.
So then how did you start learning numerology? Did you just Google? Or is there a book? Did you mentor?
No, actually. What's funny is that I didn't read any books about it until like at least a year and a half in. And a lot of the books on numerology are very old, like written in the early 1900s or the 1940s. And I was very happy when Penguin Random House reached out to me saying they wanted a millennial numerologist, because a lot of the numerology books I did find didn't resonate like the reading that I had. And a lot of the references were just like so outdated. Mm-hmm. I ended up studying with the woman who I had a reading with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I gobbled up everything I could online, like every article, any numerologist I could find. And a lot of them have blogs. And I just started, once I knew the formulas, I started doing them for every single person I knew. And I was able to start almost like the readings I did even before I worked professionally served as data and understanding the numbers and understanding the patterns and connections. And that's what I based my book off of. But it was a combination of studying under her and then just doing it. You know, it's like the same with music. Like, I can study piano for an hour a week with someone, but the only thing that's going to actually make me understand it is if I sit and play every day, right? So it's the same thing. Just I've done thousands and thousands of charts, and it became this fun way for me to test my intuition. I would look at like a celebrity, right? Because their birth info is public knowledge. So I'd look at a celebrity and I'd try and feel them, be like, oh, this energy feels like a 4. And then I'd go do their numerology. I was like, oh, it's a 4, you know? So it became fun games. And it's just like such an amazing way to unlock who we are. So I just became obsessive about it.
And it's crazy how you can know so much about a person before even having a conversation with them or any sort of interaction by just glancing at their numerology.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
I really believe that numerology is the greatest tool we have available to us. And what I love about the numbers, well, there's so many things, but what I love most is that they're very straightforward. They're not contradicting. It just is what it is. And there's a shadow and a light to each number, and we can choose to tap into that or not. You know, ultimately, it's a tool for us to empower ourselves and to live our best lives and to understand our patterns. But we're the ones who have to take action.
Right. I think that was one of the most fascinating things is sometimes we feel like we're blindly here on Earth, but the numerology almost gives us like a timeline and a guide map. And the accuracy of things is so incredibly fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I've never done a numerology for anybody and it not be accurate.
On point.
Like, yeah, to me, numbers don't lie. Like, they're just they're the universal language that we are connected to. And in understanding our numbers, and even more importantly, understanding our patterns, our year cycles, the energy we're embodying, what we're putting out to the world, and then the energy of our loved ones, numerology is so much, not just learn to really love and accept myself, but also the people around me. It brings this level of acceptance of this person's strength is this thing that I may be interpreting as harmful to me, but it's not a personal thing. That's just what their gift is to the world. And when you understand everyone's gifts and strengths, then you can play to those. And even like I'm looking to collaborate with people.
Right.
Well, you're 22, the most powerful number in numerology. And I love that you have completely different strengths than I do. So it's for collaboration. It's just, I think I'm going a little off topic. I'm just like very
it's all relevant.
I want everyone to understand the numbers because there's so much healing when you do.
And it's so much confirmation of things that we already knew about ourselves, but didn't quite know how to voice. And then when you hear it and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. There's so much reassurance in that and healing. It's crazy.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing that I tell everyone who I've read for or had any interaction with when it comes to numerology is that you already know everything I'm about to tell you, but this is just going to confirm it, right? And a lot of times we need that. We need that reminder. And when I found numerology, it helped me to step into my power. For example, I'm a life path 1. The 1 is the leader and the innovator. And whether they like it or not, they always end up being more in the spotlight, which was something that really scared me before. And I thought, wrong with me? I don't want the spotlight at all, but I'll go somewhere and all of a sudden there's all this attention on me. And it's because I have a voice, I have a vision to share. And I started to embrace that more because, you know, it is still scary putting myself out there. That's my biggest thing to overcome. Again, life path 1's biggest struggle is self-doubt, and it's crippling. And so it really helps me to remember, like, no, you are a leader. You're here to share with the world, and you have a unique perspective. And just know when that voice pops up that tells you no, that's the one's greatest struggle. And then just looking at other notable figures who have my same life path and the struggles they went through has been very healing for me. And I know, I'm sure you understanding that you're a life path 22 and that you're literally Superwoman who can do anything, you start to understand, like, oh, this is why my interactions are this way in the world.
So fascinating. Okay, so what's the information that we need in order to find your life path?
You need your birthday.
Just your birthday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So there are specific equations for every number. So your balance number, your life path number, your personal year cycle, et cetera, et cetera. Your life path is just based off of your full birthday. So you take your month, your day, and your year, you whittle each down to a single digit, and then you add that together. And then you put that down to a single digit. And the reason that we work with single digits in numerology is because that's the purest form of the energy. But if you come across an 11, 22, 33, then of course that's a master number, and that is a whole other ball game. But yeah, that's how you find your life path, is just from your birthday.
Okay, so to clarify, so it's numbers 1 through 9, and then 11, 22, and 33.
Yes.
So those are the options.
Yes, and some numerologists consider 44 a master number. I was not taught that, and I've studied a lot at this point, especially all the research I did for my book. And so I do get that question sometimes. I personally don't work with 44 it's very rare too, but I don't work with that as a master number.
So what are some of the benefits of knowing your life path number? You mentioned romantically, or I think you kind of hinted towards it, with a partner, and then also business partners. Are there other benefits that you feel?
I think the greatest thing about knowing your life path number, like I said before, is when you understand your energy, the message that you're subconsciously putting out to the world and what you're here to do, you can then embody that more and strengthen that. The powers are here to empower you, right? The number is to empower you. So, and each number has a shadow side. And when you understand, when you slip into the shadow, you can remind yourself, no, this is my life path. This is what I'm here to contribute. So that's the biggest thing, I believe. But also when it comes to collaborations or what you need in general from certain projects, if you are lacking perhaps organizational skills, then you need a 4, you need a 22, right? Or maybe you need someone who's like a creative genius. Then you're going to need like a 3 or a 1, right? So it works in that way too. But honestly, I think what the life path numbers do, knowing all of them, but specifically the life path, is that it's this journey of loving and accepting yourself and understanding that what you've gone through in this life, the challenges especially, there was nothing wrong with you.
Right.
That was just part of the plan in molding you into coming into a your fully embodied life path number.
That makes sense. So have you ever done a reading with someone and they either cut off a relationship or did a complete career change?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. I've had a lot. I have with specific numbers, or I've had a lot of people going down a certain path, and then once they find out that they're meant to be going down a different path. A lot of the times, though, here's how I'll put it. A lot of the times people find me when they're in a transitional period. So for example, I had a client who is 9-8. So she is a 9 life path and an 8 destiny. Now your life destiny number, or sometimes called a life expression number, is based off of your name. Your life path is who you are, what you're here to contribute, while your life destiny is how you're going to do that, right? So she is a humanitarian, And the way that she shows up and gives back to the world and is philanthropic is through her ability to be a powerhouse and to earn money. See, the 8 has a special talent for earning money. That's what they're here to do. The 8 is the gap between the material and the spiritual realm. So after we had a reading, she told me, I've been thinking for a long time that I want to do more volunteer work. I want to give back more. And she was kind of on the fence. You know, she was in a really stable, steady career in New York, and she wasn't involved in anything humanitarian at the time. But afterwards, she decided to take a few months off work and travel the world and go to different orphanages and volunteer with different animal shelters and whatnot. And so she started embodying that more. And when that happened, other things in her life started to open up. Right? So there's a lot of that. Or I find that when people understand their karmic debt number, that really is a game changer. And that really also helps people to accept some of the struggles that they've had and just how to work with that energy.
That's fascinating. Can we run through some of the houses, or not the houses, sorry, the life path numbers just briefly?
Yes, of course. I know it's confusing because I do
houses later.
I back and forth between astrology and numerology all the time, and I have to clarify. Like, oh wait, sorry, we're talking astrology here. Okay, so yes, numerology. So, all right, numbers 1 through 9. 1 is the leader and the innovator and highly creative. They're here to really start a movement. So think Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs. They're here to do something that hasn't been done before and really impact consciousness, right? Then we have life path 2. This is the peacekeeper. They're all about balance and harmony, and partnership tends to feature prominently in the life path 2's life. So think Tony Robbins. You know, he's someone who is very much a powerhouse in his own right, but he also has his wife who he, you know, says, I would be nothing without Sage, right? So partnerships can feature prominently, but you're really here to lift others up and to support others, not forgetting yourself. Again, think about Tony Robbins, but there's something within you that is there to support others. And 2s also come in with less ego than the other numbers. So they don't like need the spotlight, but they might find themselves in the spotlight. Unlike the 1 where they're always finding themselves in the spotlight. There's like not a really way around it. And then there's the life path 3s, and these are the communicators. So the 3 is here to be someone who embodies self-expression through some form of communication and inspires others to do so, inspires others to rise into their own way of expressing themselves, right? So a lot of artists, a lot of performers, a lot of actors, musicians are life path 3s. David Bowie was one, and he's a great example of that. Also, 3s tend to have a bit of mysticism around them because it represents the mind, body, spirit connection, the past, present, future. And lastly, I'll say it's known as the sunshine number. So there's something like really happy and like beautiful about being around the 3's energy. Then there's the 4, and that's the builder. So the 4 is really the manager, the builder. It's here to really, it's so organized and structured that it excels in business. It's also the number of breakthroughs. So if you're a life path 4, your life is going to be filled with these really intense, like confined moments. You know, think about the square. You're kind of like stuck in this, like, oh, I feel so constricted. And then you have a massive breakthrough. You're a 22, which adds up to nearly perfected traits of the 4. So that's definitely something you've experienced as well. These like, you feel really constricted and confined, and then you break through and you're free. And then you like learn a lesson, and then you're on to the next one. Mm-hmm. And then 5s, oh, they're so fun. Okay, a life path 5 is known as the free spirit and the traveler. It's the nomad's number. This is the number of change, and they're the most adaptable. You know, the 5 rides this constant wave of change throughout its life. It's meant to have as many experiences as possible and then be able to give that knowledge back to others and help inspire other people to develop their relationship with freedom in a healthy way. Then we have the 6. The 6 is the nurturer. So the 6 is really here to find a balance between a happy career and a beautiful home life. So John Lennon's a really good example of the 6. He had massive success with the Beatles and a solo career, but once he fell in love with Yoko and they had a child, he ended up being a stay-at-home dad while still managing a successful career. So, also I tend to find that a lot of 6s are counselors, therapists, nurses, doctors. They really have such a gift and ability of just taking care of others in a way that the other numbers don't. They also tend to be visionaries in their own right. But again, they're really here to find that balance between a happy home, family, and career. Then we have the 7, which is the seeker and the philosopher. And these are the ones who are very, very singular focused. They are just able to put their head down and go head first into their goal. A lot of professional athletes are 7s. Stephen Curry, I believe that's how you say his name. He's a 7. And I watched the masterclass with him one time, and he just was so obsessed with basketball. He read every book, watched every video, showed up to the court every single day for hours. These are the people who just, their whole mission is to gather as much knowledge on whatever subject lights them up and completely commit themselves to it. They're also very private. So another good example of this is Leonardo DiCaprio and Dave Chappelle. They're known as masters in the fields they are in, but you don't really know about their personal life. You just know about their work. So it's a very grounded number, a very spiritual number, not in the way, it's not cosmic, it's more, think Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was also a life path 7, so very grounded in their body. Then we have the 8, which is the powerhouse number. This is the number that can do literally anything. It has great power. And again, they act as the gap between the spiritual and material realm. So money and anything material has to do with the 8. And again, there's a light and shadow side to every number. The 8 sometimes can use its power for not the best outcome. I don't want to speak poorly about any number, but when an 8 is fully embodied, it can move mountains. Jane Fonda is an 8, so is Stevie Nicks. So, these are very powerful women who started movements in their own right, and also, very wealthy. And not that they flaunted money, but there was this level of luxuriousness to them, right? Elizabeth Taylor is also a life path 8, so that's a good example. And then we have the life path 9, and that's the humanitarian. And this is the number of an individual who really is here to give up their earthly desires to focus on themselves and to really develop love for humanity and to devote themselves to a life of service. Gandhi was a life path 9. Okay. So that's definitely not an easy path. I'm not going to lie, because the 9 is also the ending of a cycle, because it's the final number, the final single digit number. Mm-hmm. So endings feature prominently in the life path 9, but it's there to push the 9 to let go of earthly pleasures, right? To not be materialistic, to not, care about one-on-one relationships as much as it cares about the collective. Mm-hmm. Really, it's to devote itself to a cause. And then we have the master numbers. I'll go very briefly through these. The 11 is the psychic and the spiritual leader. So these are the people who a lot of the times do work professionally as psychics. They channel cosmic universal wisdom. They're here to give that back. Then we have the 22, which is the master builder that literally is here to build structures that shift and change humanity. You and Kent are Life Path 22s, also very rare. And then lastly, I'll say Life Path 33 represents Christ consciousness and unconditional love. That number is really here to understand how to love unconditionally with everyone. And yeah, that's also a very challenging path.
Wow.
I know this is a very long explanation. I tried to make it as short and concise as possible.
No, that was really good. And I love the example of public figures because you're like, oh, that makes sense. And I feel like everyone sitting here is probably Googling, how do I find my number?
Well, there
What
are
am
people
I?
who perfectly embody some of these numbers. You know, for example, like I just said, Life Path 33. Steve Irwin was a Life Path 33. Like I grew up watching his show and he was so like loving and kind and a family guy and like devoted his life to animals. And so I always think, oh, Steve Irwin, 33, you know?
Right. I think it's really fascinating to see that it's a guide for us, but you can also see if my focus is on something completely different from my life path, then it kind of makes sense why I feel resistance towards it.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. You come into alignment really when you just accept who you are, accept the traits that you have. For example, you are someone as a Life Path 22 who is able to organize and bring people together and build. You can build literally anything, but build businesses, build community, build whatever you want. It's the master builder, right? Like Richard Branson, Life Path 22, Paul McCartney's Life Path 22. These are men who built tremendous structures that shifted humanity in so many ways. And that's your skill set, right? But you may wonder, like, why does everyone come to me for this? And it's because the energetic signal you're sending to everyone is, I'm capable. I got this. I can handle 20 tasks at one time. And you can, even if you don't want to, right? Like you're good with structure. That is structure, building, seeing the bigger vision. Also, 22s are master manifestors. So whether you realize it or not, you actually are very, very powerful when it comes to manifesting.
So you probably,
yeah.
And like, I'm not the most creative. Like you create music, that to me is foreign.
Yeah.
But I will launch, like I can do the structure and make it happen, you know? So it's nice to see that. And I think it's so important for parents to look at this too, because if you're trying to force your child down one lane when they're not meant to be doing that, you could be completely nurturing them in the right way just by knowing their life path number and knowing what they've kind of chosen to do before coming to planet Earth. It's almost insight into their soul, into their attitudes, their demeanors, their interests, you know? So it's like if my daughter's not a humanitarian, why am I going to force social impact and charity on her if that's not her focus?
Well, your daughter is actually a 1 and she's a 19 1. So the 19 just speaks to the debt attached to it. And there is a certain level of recognition she'll have in her life. And it totally makes sense that she's so creative and is so comfortable in front of the camera. And I do find I read a lot for families, especially since quarantine. I've read for a lot of entire families, like the kids and the parents.
Wow.
And I do find certain patterns, like, for example, with Life Path 5s. 5s are not meant to stay in one job, to stay in one city, to stay in one place. They're literally here to experience everything. So these are the people who jump around a lot. Now, if you don't realize that that's your strength, then you could be judging someone as a Life Path 5, like, get your shit together. Why can't you just stick to one thing? But they're not. They're supposed to learn adaptability. They're supposed to learn how to have a healthy relationship to freedom and just spread their wings and fly. So when you understand that, and a lot of clients I've had who are Life Path 5s, and I give them this information, they're able to communicate that with their family. This is actually how I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be backpacking through Europe for a year because that's their actual strength, where you as a 22, that doesn't make any sense for you to do. Like, foundations are way too important to you, and you understand how to build foundations for not only just like your personal life, but in business, and you know how to do that for others. So, you know, having a really good home life, a stable home life is what's important. Like staying in one place is more important to you, right?
Right.
A 5, that will literally kill their soul.
I think this also speaks on to realizing just how unique all of us are. I think we're all waking up to the fact of, you know, we were taught go to school, go to college, white picket fence, marriage. And that's kind of like the timeline that we're all supposed to be on. But when you start realizing we're so uniquely made and all here on a unique mission, that doesn't work for someone. And I think it also gives us that comfort and being like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not behind on this man-made, society-impressed timeline, that you're on your own. So if you are married at this age or you are creating a business at this age, like the whole idea of being on this set timeline is inaccurate.
Oh, it's
So
totally
inaccurate.
Not only with the life path number, but even with the personal year cycle.
Yes,
you know,
let's talk about that.
That I think the personal year cycles are the greatest tool we have available to us out of anything. I've studied everything.
So how many year cycles are there?
Okay, so the personal year, well, there's universal year cycle, which we're experiencing as a collective.
Okay.
There's personal year cycles based off of your birthday, and they run in cycles 1 through 9. And each year has a specific theme, something that you are dealing with. That it's when the energy is supported, right? And it's so wild. I've never seen it not be accurate. And I've been able to sit across from people who think this is all complete BS and be like, okay, you got married in this year, you got divorced in this year, you moved in this year, you changed jobs in this year, you came into financial abundance in this year, and be completely accurate. And this is available to everyone. These are just the year cycles we're in. And what's so beautiful and so amazing is that the year cycles are also an incredible chart to track your growth. So right now in 2020, whatever year you're experiencing, the last time you were in that year was 2011. So this is another thing. You can track like what happened this year that also happened in 2011. Where are the parallels? And I guarantee you will see them. For example, every year 4 I've been in, which is year foundations and breakthroughs, I have gone through a breakup. Every year 5, I've moved cities. That's my pattern. It's really important that everyone understands their own energy to the year cycles. So, for example, one of my friends, a few of my girlfriends actually, are on the cusp of going into relationship years. Now, you could come into a relationship in any year, but the time that I always see people come into relationships is a year 6, and oftentimes a year 2 as well. Year 6 is specific to love and specific to relationships. It's the whole, what you're learning in that year. 2 is really about a slow and steady pace of finding balance and harmony within yourself, but partnership tends to feature prominently in that year as well. And so if you're in a year 5, about to come into a year 6, and the 5 is the year of change, unexpected changes, relationship to freedom, and you really want to make a relationship work, the energy is just not supported, And when you know that you're coming into a year 6, like one of my friends is, then it's like, okay, I can table my desire to be in a relationship and to find love for the next few months because I know it's going to come next year. So it helps you focus.
And it helps you remove the abrasive or the restriction or, because sometimes I think especially those who have read the Law of Attraction, The Secret, and gone into manifesting, that sometimes we're like, I need to manifest this career, or I need to manifest this partner. And so we're combating the forces of the universe, the energetic push and pull, and being like, why am I not manifesting? Something's wrong with me. When really that's not the energy of the year that you're in. That's why I love it, because I know for me, like, I'm looking for a relationship. I'm going into a 6, right?
You're going into 2, but what's interesting, you're in a year 1, and year 1s Well, anything that starts in a year one tends to take for the whole 9-year cycle. So you can find a relationship then because it is a time of new beginnings. But typically, a one is a year that you're supposed to focus on yourself,
Mm,
right? So
right.
that's why, the energy will be more supported after September leading into your year two for partnership, when right now you're still integrating, focusing on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who is Ariel? What does she want? What
Right.
lessons do you learn? Because once you come into partnership, then the focus is on someone else as well.
Right. Which makes sense because trying to, let's say, work on a massive charity event for other people, like that's not exactly where the energy is flowing for me. So I'm gonna feel some sort of resistance, right? So
Absolutely.
it's really
And
cool to see.
if you take stock of this past year, like, how much have you been like, you know what, I'm going to get so dedicated with my
Mm-hmm.
exercise routine. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be so dedicated with my meditations. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all been about improving your own quality of life and yourself. You moved into an apartment, new beginning, and also like finally you have an apartment that you feel really supports the
Yeah.
lifestyle that you. So this is all about you, when next year is actually the year where you're supposed to focus on others. So you spend your year one really getting in touch with yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
once you're like, this is who I am now. This is a new version of me. I know who I am. You go into your year two and it's like, what about the other? So it
Right.
shifts from me to we. So who is Ariel now? And then year two, it's who is Ariel in relationship? Who is Ariel in
Mm,
collaborations and with friends? But right now, your focus should be on yourself. And that's what's so amazing. It's even just knowing a year is coming up, you
right.
can you can sort of calm your mind and be like, oh,
It's
right
brought
now,
so much peace.
yeah,
Yeah. Just being
yeah,
like, okay, the focus is in our relationship right now, but knowing that I could transition into that, then what can I do for myself to set myself up to be in a good position to welcome in love? So it just kind of changes and also it lessens the amount of self doubt that we put on ourselves and our abilities, you
yeah.
know?
Some of the anxieties that you may be experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
the seven, as I mentioned, is a very introverted number. So whenever anyone's in the energy of a seven, either life path or Shiza, sorry, personal year or personal month, because there are month cycles that are running synchronistically with the year cycle, they won't want to be social. So I'll get a lot of
Right.
people coming to me, what's wrong with me? I don't want to see my friends anymore. Well, the whole point of the seven is to go within. That's the whole
Mm,
point. It's about gathering knowledge and really focusing on something within yourself as opposed to outside of yourself. It's getting in touch with yourself. So, I tell people, oh, this is just the seven. This is what you're supposed to do. Or if you're in an eight energy, then money is on your mind a lot, a lot, a lot. And I remember the last time I was in a month eight, I would wake up in the morning and the first thing I would think about was money. And it became a little bit stressful. But then I was able to understand, oh, this is the month's energy that I'm in. So how can I capitalize on that? So I bought, a couple financial books and I started studying up on finances more. I created a savings account. So it's all about just writing those energies and understanding that things come up in that cycle for a reason and to be moved through. And when you can chart your past, when you
mm-hmm.
cycles, these month cycles, then you be at peace because we're secular beings. We
Right.
come, cyclical beings, we come into the same issues again and again and again, but hopefully we are
We learn.
wiser,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're more knowledgeable. So,
Right.
your last year two, you came into a partnership. Maybe it wasn't the best partnership for you. You learned a lot. So now you go into this upcoming year two and you're like, I know what I want with a
Right.
partner. I found out my last year or two what I didn't want.
Right. I think, and also let's talk about, you mentioned you will find a relationship ending in certain years. So
Oh, yeah.
some people, I remember at your event you did, someone was like, wait, does that mean I'm going to have a failed marriage in that year?
Yeah.
And you're
Okay.
like, no, it's having an awareness.
Yes, of course. So everything is awareness. So there's a light and a shadow to every single number. And depending on where you're at in your life, and if you're in alignment with your values, your highest self, which the life path really helps you to come into alignment with who you are and your power, you're able to sort of like either go into the shadow or go into the light, right? So for example, a year 6 is referred to as a marriage or divorce year in numerology. So let's say you're in a really toxic relationship and you go into year 6, chances are there'll be a breakup. Of course, because it's for your highest good, right? You shouldn't be in a toxic relationship. You should be in a relationship that supports and uplifts you. But let's say you're madly in love and you've been thinking about taking the next step and you enter year 6. I see a lot of people get engaged in that year or plan to get married in that year. So, 6 is definitely a year that can happen. 9 is also a year that can happen because 9 is the ending of the year cycle, the ending of a cycle. You're really sort of, I give the analogy of the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. You're melting down in order to be this goo and then rebuild yourself into a butterfly and fly away in your year 1, your month 1. So the 9 is definitely a time of endings. But again, like, it's all about where you're at within your own life. Like, are you in alignment with who you are? Are you in the right relationships? Or are you out of alignment and choosing things that aren't necessarily healthy for you? Because the universe is going to push you one way or another. It's going to try and wake you up. Like, it's going to be like, hey, this relationship isn't good. You need to get out, right? And then that's when you'll find you have breakups in those times.
So good. I love the part of looking back at your cycles and being like, okay, what lesson was I in?
Yeah.
That so in 2011, did I master it? Did I overcome it? And then how is it showing up in my life right now?
Yeah. So helpful. And also what I think is really interesting is that we're in a time right now in 2020 where we're going through what a lot of people believe is a great awakening, a mass awakening of people getting more in touch with their spiritual sides and sort of seeing the world from a different perspective. What's interesting about that is that we're on the cusp of this. We're at the beginning of this new chapter in humanity where nothing's going to go back to what it was. And 2021 is actually the same cycle as 2012. And many people believe like this awakening really like started on the down low in 2012. So I always say, like, look back at 2012 at what happened, not just globally, but personally, because that's a way to chart what 2021 is going to look like for the collective and for ourselves.
So much insight. Helps with making little decisions. On that note, do you use numerology when you are making any sort of business decision or even flight decisions? How much do you use numbers in your choices?
Oh, man. Well, I live my life like religiously by the year cycles. Like every time there's a first of the month, I'm like, okay, I knew I was coming into a 5. So for example, August is my month 5. That's a time when travel is really supported and lots of changes occur. And that's when I decided to come out to LA. I hadn't traveled since COVID happened. And I always knew, though, for the past few months when I was like, God, I'm just stuck in this one place. I knew I was going to go somewhere in August, right? I just knew the energy was going to call me there. And then, some work opportunities came to light. And of course, it was around August, right? So I really do live my life by those cycles. And everyone who's close to me mostly lives their life by those cycles as well. But even when I collaborate, when I'm working on music with someone, when I'm working on this TV show with someone, even when I'm seeking advice, I'm like, okay, I'm struggling. Even today, I was struggling because I felt that I'm not organized enough. So who did I reach out to? A 22. If you were a life path 5, I would not have come to you with that seeking advice, because life path 5 strength is very different, right? The last time I felt I needed nurturing, what did I seek out? A life path 6, right? So it's all about utilizing the energy that you need in moments, whether it's just you're feeling down, you want to talk to a friend, or when it comes to collaborations, you know, like who has strengths I don't have? Like what can I bring to the table for someone who may not have my insights, right? Even I use it when it comes to, I mean, I get really on this. Like even when I'm in the gym, I'm like, I'm only going to stay in this locker because of this number, right? And that's a little crazy, but I'm just very obsessed with numbers. So it makes sense. But, you know, the houses that I stay in, that I live in, are very important to me because each apartment and house has an energy because of the number associated with it.
100%. Yeah. I'm in my home is a 1, which I'm in my 1. So it's crazy how nurtured, supported I feel because I'm in alignment with the energy of my home.
Well, and your passcode too is also a number for you. So that's just wild. But yeah, I use it in so many ways. I mean, even when it comes to seeing repeating numbers, you know, when I catch the clock at a certain time, or, you know, I go out and suddenly I keep seeing the same number repeated. Well, I work with that energy as well, because that to me is the universe expressing a message to me, right? So I really do use it for almost everything. But I will say again, the biggest thing I use it for is living my life by cycles. Like I already know when specific events I've been like praying and hoping for are going to happen based on the year cycle. And I can sort of like give myself a break. Like, okay, keep showing up and doing the work because it's going to happen in 2022.
That's really good. I know say it again.
It does help cultivate patience.
Yeah, remove anxiety, help you realize that you are on track, you are in alignment, you are creating what you asked for. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yes.
You know?
No, so it really
do the groundwork. Yeah, do the groundwork, set your goals, and then let it go.
Yes.
I know we're getting short on time, but can you speak on to repeating numbers for a few minutes? And the messages that come through, and also realizing that it's not a one stamp shop for all, that the repeating numbers affects you based off of your life path number and the cycle that you're in. I think it's so overplayed that the whole concept of like 1111 make a wish is almost dumbing it down. It's so much more powerful, you know?
Like the thing that upsets me the most about numerology is that on Instagram there's so many posts like 777 miracles are happening, your angels are nearby, and honestly none of that is based in any logic. None of that is based on what the numbers actually mean in any way. Like the first thing I tell everyone about repeating numbers is what numbers make up your chart. Like if I see a 4, for example, 4 is my balance number. That's how you deal with conflict. It's also the number that brings harmony into your life, things back into balance, right? Your balance number. So if I'm seeing repeating 4s, that's not a generic like answer to what a 4 is. That's not like, hey, work and breakthroughs and foundations. And that's not reminding me of who I am. That's simply the universe saying, hey, are you in balance right now? But you may have a life path 4. And if that's your life path, 4 showing up for you is a message from the universe saying, hey, remember who you are. Remember your strength, right? So you need to understand your own numbers in order to really understand the messages that the universe is communicating to you through numbers. That's the first thing. The second thing is if you're saying repeating numbers like crazy, and maybe it's not the same number. Maybe it's like a sequence of numbers like 333, 444, 555. Like you just keep seeing that. That's just a sign that you are upgrading. Something is accelerating. You're on a different timeline, right? This all just has to do with synchronicities in general, which I just talked about in an IGTV video. But Carl Jung was the one who first understood synchronicities and how sometimes things that don't seem like they're connected actually are connected and are sending you a message. So synchronicities are another part of repeating numbers. So just understanding that you're having some sort of spiritual upgrade. And then again, there are the generic responses. If you don't know your chart, if you don't understand like maybe the upgrades you're experiencing, then yeah, there are, if you're seeing 1111, well, 11 is the psychic number. That's the number connected to the cosmos and universal wisdom. So perhaps that is the universe communicating to you like, oh, like trust your intuition now, because you're going to be getting really powerful insights and cosmic downloads. So there's basically 3 things to know. It's 1, your own numbers, because that's the most accurate reading you're going to get. 2, repeating numbers are really just synchronicities and upgrades. And 3, there is a generic, or definition of each number. And that's also something to take into account if you don't understand your chart right away.
To everyone listening in, Kaerhart has some amazing content on her Instagram, so please go there to find out about repeating numbers, life path numbers, how to find it, all of that kind of stuff. And I know your book is coming out, but do you have other tools or resources that people can use to read more up on life paths or just finding their number?
Yeah, well, I've been developing, I have some things in the works that I'm going to have on my website where people can sort of put in their birthday and understand their life path. I'm also recording more content for my YouTube page and my Instagram to sort of bring this more to people. My book is available in the UK in a hardcover, August 13th, 2020. And then I believe you can also download it on Kindle from anywhere. And then it'll be released early 2021 in America. So yeah, there aren't that many resources out there. And I'm really happy that I wrote this for a lot of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons is that people ask me all the time, like, what books do you recommend? And honestly, there aren't any numerology books that have been written in the past, like 50 years that I would recommend. So I hope that this is something that will resonate with people who are, millennials, Gen Zs, even people who are a little bit older than us who, they want to know numerology, and this is like able to reach them in a way that's like our time.
And our length, and it's small, it's easy to read, it's not overwhelming. I mean, the formulas are in there for how to find your life path numbers.
Yes.
I'm so very excited for this.
An intro book. So it's meant to sort of like give you a taste of what it is. And I included what I thought was the most important information. So, our karmic numbers and balance numbers, and then our life path, life destiny, and of course the personal year cycles, which I think take up like a third of the book. It's actually really, really hard to whittle down each number to being just a few pages, because each number could honestly have its own book. But I think it's really good just to like get people's dip your toes in the water so you can understand, oh, this is what it is.
Right. So good. Okay, as we wrap up here, and the question that we always ask everyone.
I don't have.
Like, are you ready for this? Do you have a quote or a saying that you live your life by?
Oh, I have so many quotes that I remember to myself in times of turmoil and whatnot. I'm trying to think of what a quote is that I think of that I live by. I mean, to be honest, ever since we spoke to Curtis, like the whole how you do one thing is how you do everything, that really has been on my mind ever since. And when I don't want to do something fully and I'm being like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this, I'm like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So that's always repeating in my head.
That one's so good.
Yeah. And then if I ever feel triggered, a quote that I really love that I heard once was, if it's hysterical, it's historical. So if I have a big reaction to something, I always think, oh, this doesn't have to do with right now. This is something from my past. This is something I have to look at that perhaps happened to me in childhood, right? So that's a really good quote. But again, that only comes to mind if I feel that energetic trigger point happen.
I love that. This has been so much fun. I feel like we could go on for hours. We don't have to go deep dive in again. Numerology
or anything else, or like there's too much with numbers. I don't even know like how to like put out all the information. I wish I could like download my obsessive studying of numbers.
I wish you could download to me.
I know.
I'm gonna start learning.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah, we have to have astrology classes.
Yes, we do.
How about that? Yeah. Okay. And
We'll
yeah.
touch on that too.
Okay. Yeah. This has been super fun, and we'll do more of these where we talk more about numbers and astrology, and then we'll do ones where you really help share with, all the spiritual people out there who have a really hard time, just being on Earth. How to be a human. How to be
human.
Dude,
How to show
Ariel
up.
down for all of the cosmic people. Like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do. You're like, oh, okay, here's how you do it.
This has been so much fun. We have to do it again. Everyone, please stay tuned for her book coming out, her EP drops, and her oracle cards come out soon. So this will be
that's all happening. Woo!
We can come back and talk just about the oracle cards.
Yeah, we'll have those next month.
Amazing. So fun. Everyone, to connect with her, it's just at Kaerhart on Instagram. So easy. It has been so much fun. We will see you all next week.
Love you.
Bye.